What is up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're going to be doing two league races in one video. That is SRL, the league race that I run on Friday nights, and also AOR, the league that I run on Sunday nights. So due to the nature of both races here in China, they were both wet races, and you'll find out why that they're combined in the one video. There is a bit of action, but the action is actually quite spread out and few and far between, shall we say. So I thought I'd combine the two in one video and kind of compare my driving between the Friday and the Sunday, and kind of just show you how my pace kind of evolves over the course of a weekend, just as we get a little bit more practice and head into AOR. But you can see initially, first run in qualifying, we are currently sitting in P1, 132.5. Solid banker time. It's nothing amazingly awesome now, looking back at it now with hindsight. I think a good time is a high 31, really low 32. If you can get that time, you'll be near enough to the front two rows of the grid. But we're heading out now for our final run here. I fueled up the car to do 2 laps, but unfortunately I just lost a little bit of time on my outlap here with a bit of traffic, and I just missed out by like a few seconds. So when I finish this lap here, I'm going to miss out by a few seconds by starting my second lap, which is a little bit unfortunate. I'm going for 2 laps in this final run because, like I said, it is raining and tyre wear does not matter because we'll be starting on the intermediate tyres. But anyway, going through the middle sector now, you can see 4th gear through here, short shift 5th to minimise the wheel spin. That's something I'm going to be talking about quite a lot in this video, especially when it comes to the race, but we'll get onto that a little bit later. Through to the Snell section now, you do not at all circumstances want to touch that outside curb. If you do, it'll delay your power output onto the straight there, and it'll cost you so much time. So avoid that at all costs. Now running down the straight, DRS is open, max fuel mixture. We've got quite a bit of fuel on board. Braking really late, just as the ripple strip starts. I've gone in a little bit too deep, haven't turned in early enough, and we've lost a little bit of time to our delta. We're just up by over a tenth as we head through the final corner now. Short shift to 4th, back up into 5th, and we got a really nice exit out of the final corner, pretty much gaining like 2 tenths there, moving us to pole position for the Chinese Grand Prix with only 30 seconds left to go in the session. Ryan and Warden still need to set their final laps. Warden actually goes pole position by 1,000th of a second. Unbelievable. Ryan's coming through the final corner as well now in the Force India, and it looks like a really smooth lap for him. He goes pole position with a 1 minute 31.982. Stonking lap from Ryan there. That puts him on pole position, and yeah, in the dying laps we went from 1st to 3rd. So yeah, I can't be too disappointed with that. I did a really good job with my laps. It's just probably the nature of China. It's not my strongest track in the world. To be right there with the front running guys in the quote-unquote pad's backyard, I will certainly take that. We can certainly challenge now heading into the race where it will be intermediate conditions, and technically if you could put any track and conditions combo on the calendar, this would be my worst one. So I have almost no expectations heading into this race. Ultimately, if I can get away with a podium, then I will certainly take that heading into this race. So Chinese Grand Prix, intermediate conditions for the entirety of the race, and this is basically the exact same conditions that we had in F1 Esports qualifying. So I have a little bit of practice with these conditions, so I have learnt a lot and I have worked on my driving quite a bit, so I have bridged the gap from, you know, where I would normally used to be in the wet to the front running guys' pace in the wet. So hopefully I can challenge. I can't promise anything, but I'm going to give it my best shot anyway. So let's head to the race for the Chinese Grand Prix. Okay, so here we are on the grid for this race. 5, 4, 5, 3, 2, 1. There we go. Away we go for the Chinese Grand Prix. Bit of wheel spin off the start, as you'd expect in these conditions. Warden getting really sideways off the second getaway off the line there, well, the second phase of the start, but we move into turns 1 and 2 now, still holding down our starting position, which is all I can really ask for at this stage. We've got a few people who are kind of out of the order at the moment. People like Jared who are way down in like P12 or something like that. So there are still quite a few people back in the pack who still need to make their way through. So we'll have to be ever wary of those guys. First lap, you can see initially we're all kind of sliding around and really just trying to customize to these conditions as quickly as we can. Jetson right behind me, P4. Massive moment out of the Snell section. Warden having a massive moment as well, almost going into the barrier there at the end of the first lap. It's not just tough for me, it's tough for everybody, these conditions. The biggest takeaway that I found from not only this race, but AOR as well, is minimizing your wheel spin and just dulling down the revs and just trying to get a nice, smooth exit. It's the fastest and best way to look after your tyres. It's just the best practice to take into these kind of races. And you know, initially I was quite struggling with this. I could see Ryan and Warden were slowly getting away, so there was that pressure to try and, you know, push on as much as I possibly could. A little bit deeper into the hairpin. Again, here is a little bit of a corner cut, and that was our third warning of the race. So again, a little bit of desperation creeping into my game there, trying to, you know, keep up with the front guys, and by pushing that a little bit too far, that was actually slowing me down quite a lot, and it was giving me that time penalty, and was not the way to go about things. You can see the gap now is out to 5 seconds. So, you know, for the most part, the pace was similar. When I hooked a lap up, I was fairly close to that pace, but the biggest thing for me was consistency. I could not, lap after lap, smoothly get the power down. I couldn't, you know, brake as late as I wanted to without locking up. These are all little things that were, you know, from my end that I need to work on, and I definitely drove a lot better in the AOR races, you'll see, but I was really struggling in this first stint. I've got Jetson right behind me, keeping the pressure on. He went up my inside on lap 5 and almost got the move done there, but we're into the pits now at the end of this lap. We're doing the 1-stop today. You can do a 2-stop, but it's too slow. You won't make up the time at the back end of the race. But you can see there, just as we're about to head in the pit lane, we've got a left rear puncture. A left rear puncture. And my other tyres are only at 78, 81% for the front left. Punctures start to kick in above 75% tyre wear. And for me, as of late, as soon as I get in that danger period, the tyres just go. They're not supposed to go at 75%, but there's a chance. It's random. At any point above 75%, it can go. They can go to 90-odd%, even 100% before they are officially supposed to pop. But for me, as soon as it just gets into that danger window, the tyres pop. I just have the worst luck as of late when it comes to that. So for the second stint here, I made more of an effort to look after my rear tyres. I was looking after them quite well, and it actually made me faster. I was a lot more smoother on the power. I was able to match it with the front running guys. Warden has actually pitted because he felt like he couldn't make it to the end. He pitted 1 lap before I did, and his tyres are at like 60-odd% or something with 5 laps to go. So that is a gift for us in P2 in this Grand Prix. New Zealand Ryan wins the race. His consistency today was absolutely sublime. Warden was very quick at times, but just like me, he probably lacked that consistency, and he's going to lose quite a few points in the championship race in this Grand Prix. So it's 18 points for us, second place. And even with that 3-second time penalty, we were safe to secure P2 in the race. So really happy with that. If you would have said P2 is what you'll get in the Chinese Grand Prix in wet conditions, I would absolutely take that any day of the week. The championship standings are very close. I don't have them on screen at the moment. I'll edit them in, but I believe New Zealand Ryan is leading, Warden is in second, and I'm in third, but there's something like 6 points separating all of us. So 3 rounds done in SRL, and things are looking very tight at this stage. So yeah, really exciting to see what this championship evolves into in the coming races. But that's the first race done. We're now off to AOR now, where we're going to have the exact same conditions. So it's China take 2. So here we are then, ladies and gentlemen. This is now AOR. This is 2 days later from the SRL race. Now, there are some small differences with this league as opposed to SRL. In AOR, you have to have parc fermé conditions. So for the last league we ran, in qualifying, I ran a dry setup, and in the race, I ran a fully wet setup. But for AOR, it's just like real F1. So we had to make a compromise, and I decided to compromise quality by running a full wet setup. So if you guys did the F1 Esports qualifying event, the setup that I'm running is the same one that Maximilian is running. I think it's pretty much the same as the Flying Finn as well, with the exception of 10 ballast. In SRL I ran 11 ballast, and maybe that was hindering me a little bit too much with how much oversteer I was getting and maybe that rear puncture. So I decided to tone things down a little bit for this league and run 10 ballast with the exact same setup, and we'll see how we go. So in terms of outright pacing qualifying, we're running quite a bit more downforce than what we normally do. This is 311 wings. In a dry setup, I'm running like 19 wings. So I'm going to be a little bit slower in qualifying, but hopefully in the race, I'm going to be quite speedy. So we'll see how we go. Initially, the banker time is the exact same one as SRL. And if things are going accordingly, then maybe we can match our second run that we did in SRL in this one. So we're going purple to the first sector, which is obviously a really good sign. 700s up as we go through the first third of the lap. This is all flat out for this long left-hander. Double shift down to 5th gear, then 4th just to get the nose in. Short shift back up into 5th. Down to 3rd gear to get the nose in. Then short shift through here, up through 5th. I actually touched the outside curbing, which is hurt my exit a little bit, but not too much. Maybe a 10th or 2, but we head into the Snell section again. Swing the car in left, then back right, so you can get a nice, clean exit. Short shifting a little bit up the gears. Further to the right, you can get your car through that Snell section, the better exit you'll get. But I just ran wide ever so slightly, but wasn't too bad in the end there. Down the straight, you can actually see we're not losing too much time to our delta on our previous banker lap, which we got a massive toe down the straight, really deep on the brakes. This time we actually hit the apex and get a nice clean exit. Short shifted nicely up into 3rd gear there. And now you can see we're almost 3/10 up through the final corner, down to 4th, back up into 5th really quickly to keep the flow going, and we improve by, I think, 3.5 tenths there to go a 1:32.1, which with a wet setup, I think is a really good time. But again, Ryan and Warden have just gone that little bit better. Ryan, again, 31.9. I think he pretty much matched what he did on SRL with a dry setup. So again, with a little bit more practice, we're all finding just those extra few tenths, even with a slightly compromised setup. So full credit to everyone for their qualifying efforts. That was actually quite brilliant. The gap between Oceania and Top Split 1 on Xbox, it's getting closer and closer every week. So I can only commend everyone in this league for taking it that much more seriously. The amount we've all improved over the last 8 months has been insane. We were quite a lot slower, and now we look quite good as a whole, as a field, which is really nice to see. But here we are, ready for the start of this race. 5 red lights for the Chinese Grand Prix, and away we go. Nice start from me there. Didn't get too much wheel spin. You can see Master Berserk alongside. Probably got a better start than what I did. So we're going to be running side by side for the 2 Mercedes and the 2 Ferraris. Ryan up front, Warden up the inside of New Zealand Ryan. You can see Master Berserk doing the exact same thing as what Warden is. So a bit of an iconic shot there between the 2 front-running teams here in AOR. So nice exit from me there. I just knew if I minimized the wheel spin and got a nice exit, I'd be able to get Master Berserk. I didn't want to be too impatient there on the throttle, so we managed to get him heading into turn 4 now. Went in too deep, locked up the outside front, I think it was, which was weird, but we gave up the place to Master Berserk. So yeah, worked quite hard in those opening few corners to get past him, and then just that tiny little mistake was enough for him to get through. So frustrating scenes at the start of this Chinese Grand Prix. Master Berserk going in really deep into that hairpin corner. He's actually drilled the back of his teammate there, Warden, and he's lost a bit of his front wing. We go clean around the outside there and back up into P3. I thought we might potentially be able to get him later on in the race. I didn't think it would happen later on in the lap. What? Wow. Okay, Ferrari's colliding. Not for the first time in Formula 1, but there we go, into 3rd place. All of this has really benefited Ryan because he's got a gap of about, I don't know, 1 to 2 seconds there. But Warden on the next lap closes that pretty drastically with a 1:48.9. We are some half a second away from that front-running pace at this stage. So Master Berserk pitted at the end of the first lap. He changed his front wing, and now he's got a lot of overtaking to do in this Grand Prix. It's a real shame for him as well because he was practicing so much this week, and he looked really, really quick. He probably could have got a podium today if he would have kept it together. but that's certainly helped out us in our race to getting on the podium. But got a bit of clear air here now. You can see on lap 4 and lap 5 we were pushing on quite hard. I think I got a fastest lap on the previous lap, so I will certainly take that. I wasn't expecting that at the Chinese Grand Prix in the rain, no less. So that was a real kick of confidence for me, and I then started to push a little bit more. But you know, just like in SRL, it was really hard to find that balance of getting the maximum out of the car, just you know, pushing that right amount. You know, you had to feather the throttle so much. I don't know whether it's because it's the wheel, probably not, but you know, just the nature of the conditions and how slippery it was, you really had to hold back from, you know, going too deep into a braking zone or going in too hard out of a corner, and also short shifting at just about every opportunity to look after the rear tyres and make sure you didn't get too much wheel spin. But yeah, it was a fine balance. It was very tough to manage, and you know, when I hooked it up, I was the fastest car on track. Like I set a couple of fastest laps of this race, but you know, it was really hard to find that threshold of just going over the edge, and I wasn't as consistent as what Ryan and Warden were. You can see we went fastest again to that last lap, so the pace was there. It's just like it was so easy to overstep the mark that I'd close the gap and I'd get close, but then I'd lose the margin again. So it was really frustrating to watch, to drive and be part of. But yeah, I'm doing my best to stay with them. You can see, you know, we set fastest lap of the Grand Prix on lap 7. The following lap we lose a second. Frustrating. There's still a little bit more to do on my side as well. Like watching in hindsight, I wasn't shifting up as early as what I should have been. The tyre wear, 77% on the left rear. You compare that to Ryan, one corner later, he's on 68%. So I just thought I'd compare the tyre wear there. You can see as well, Ryan is running with 100% diff. I'm running with 70% diff. So my setup is actually easier on the rear tyres, whereas Ryan's is harder, yet he has better rear tyre wear, which is absolutely insane. Hard to comprehend that one. Maybe there are other differences in the setup that help him, but it is common knowledge among the league racing community that the wheel is harder on the rear tyres, but it's better on the front tyres versus the pad, whereas the pad is better on the rear tyres, not so good on the fronts. And when it comes to wet weather conditions over the course of a race, looking after the rear tyres is really going to help you in the long run. So maybe that was also part of the lack of consistency on my part. I'm just throwing these things out there just to, I don't know, open up a discussion, see if there's anything I can do to improve that, because ultimately at the end of the day, I'm still trying to better my wet weather pace. So yeah, I mean, full credit to these guys. They are absolute demons in the wet, but I still have a bit of ways to go if I want to, you know, be on their kind of level in these conditions. But we press on for the rest of the stint. I pitted the exact same time as what I did in SRL. Thankfully enough, I didn't get a puncture. Maybe the 10 ballast helped in that aspect, but we're going to push on now and see if we can hold on to third place in this Grand Prix. HO is only a second behind. He's been shadowing me this entire Grand Prix, and you can see the lap times fairly consistent, fairly close to my personal best for the race. So for the most part, I was still, you know, pushing and making sure to keep that gap to the end of the race, and we've got to a point now where Ryan has caught up to the back of Warden in the dying laps of this Grand Prix. So what happened in the pit stops is Warden stopped the same lap as what I did on lap 13. Ryan stopped one lap later, gave up the undercut and the lead, which was very brave of Ryan, but now he's chasing him down with better pace. So look for those two to kind of close in on each other on this last lap here. But for us though, we've been maintaining third place this whole race. We get to the last lap, and then right there, left rear puncture. Left rear puncture, and that is our podium out the window, and we're just going to have to crawl all the way back to the pits now, all the way to the finish line with only 3 wheels on our wagon. We cut now to Ryan and Warden, who are really close now on this last lap. We can't really get sad about my results here. We've got a bit of a tussle for the lead going on here. Warren gets a really bad exit out of the Snell section. Now Ryan is all over him in the slipstream. Rich revs. He's got a little bit of fuel to burn. Not too much though. Slipstream. He pulls to the inside. So Warden here can't cover the inside. And now Ryan is going to have a free pass to dive up the inside. Heading into the hairpin. This is for the lead of the race, no less. On the last lap to the inside. Ryan gives him a little squeeze, but fair though, and he takes the lead with just 2 corners to go in the Chinese Grand Prix. Warden loses the back end, trying to get on power early, and that is his race done and dusted. Ryan, like a thief in the night, takes the Chinese Grand Prix. What a race from those two. They had a stunning race in Australia in AOR, and it continues here again in China. Nothing can separate those two guys. It is awesome, awesome to watch. But for us today, we had the pace, just not the consistency. I knew I probably couldn't fight here today, but I put up my best shot, and it looks like we might just about get home for 4th place here with the puncture that we've had to nurse home for this final lap here. Thankfully, the gap to Master Berserk was pretty substantial, and we were able to manage that one home to the end there. So, 4th place. We lost 3 points on that last lap. HO gets on the podium. So congrats to him and everyone else on the podium there. The level of concentration for that entirety of the race was mega. It's really hard to put into words how difficult it is in these situations to not, spin out or make a mistake. The conditions really were quite tricky, and to have that for the entirety of the Grand Prix, it was a real sweat fest. So Ryan wins the Grand Prix. Very brave decision to give away the lead to Warden and have the confidence to chase him down in the second half of the stint. That's an awesome drive. Awesome stuff. And with it, I think we are leading the Constructors' Championship for Mercedes. So, team-wise, we're looking really good. Championship, I've got off to a little bit of a slow start with that incident with Jared, I think it was, in the first race. And then today to get the puncture, to lose the podium. There's a few points lost there, but overall, we're still in the hunt, kind of. But, yeah, we just need to make sure we have a clean race in the next one. So, Baku is up next. It's a street track. That's going to be tough on the rear tyres, and I think I just need to do a little bit of soul-searching and figure out why I am harder on my rear tyres than maybe some of my other rivals. To get that puncture in the second half of that stint, that's really tough. I didn't get that in SRL, and I was a bit more conservative with the setup, and I looked after the rear tyres in the second half of this stint, and still we got the puncture, so yeah, really weird. I need to figure out why that happened, because as soon as we get anywhere near 75%, the tyres just pop. Whereas for other people, it seems like there is a little bit more resistance before it seems to go. So, a bit of bad luck on my side, and also a little bit more of adjustment needed for me to be more competitive in these conditions. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. This was a bit of a technical sweat fest, this one. Getting right into the nitty-gritty stuff of how to be fast on this F1 game. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed. It is getting to that level now. A lot of these guys are upping their ante, they're upping their game, and as a consequence, I need to do the same if I want to stay at that same level and continue to win. But that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Until the next race, the Azerbaijan Grand Prix for both SRL and AOR again, I'll see you next time.